Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to NRRL's Thursday Division. We're here today for what I believe is the first I've ever commentated, Austrian Grand Prix. My name is JP. I'm your commentator tonight. Joining me in the commentary booth is Lewis. Good evening, Lewis. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Also, my first time commentating here. One of these tracks that has everything you could want. Lots of places to pass, good backdrop, lots of different aspects with ties and strategies. It should be an interesting one.
Exactly that. The Styrian Mountains, always a great backdrop at what is a quality racing circuit. Great places for overtaking. A lot of DRS around here, very short lap, and it should provide for not only a great qualifying session, but a great race as well. 18 minutes of qualifying ahead of us before we head into our main Grand Prix. But this should be a very spicy session. Now, Lewis, I'm going to pass it over to you. Obviously, very early on in the session, we haven't even had a lap yet. But as the lap times start coming in, what drivers are you looking at to sort of push towards the front of the grid?
I say it quite often, but I would go to the ones that we have seen the most of. You know, your I have no grips, who's in a rich vein of form at the minute. Mikey, who's been seriously improving over the last month or so. And then your usuals, Dan, Josh, those kind of drivers that are always up there. I would expect that they would be around here too. It can be a very, very difficult circuit. And it will be an interesting session because given the track is so short, everyone will be congested together. So it gives us that sense of urgency to get the laps done, or a clean lap done anyway. But I would expect that they would be up towards the top as per normal.
Most certainly, and you bring up a good point with the whole clean laps thing because it is very easy to invalidate around Austria. Obviously, there isn't much runoff here at certain parts of the track. It is quite an oriental racing track where you have, your grass, your gravel to deter drivers from going off. But it is very easy to stick a wheel over the white lines, get a penalty, and that is your lap done. And if you do that on your final lap, that really could harm you come the end of qualifying. I'm watching Josh, who is currently on his lap. He will be the first man to set a flying lap. Many drivers are out right now. Only 3 drivers in the pits out of the 19. So 16 drivers currently on the track tonight as Josh comes around the final corner. And it's a 104.8 for Josh. That's not a bad lap time by any means at all. And we now just wait to see the times tumble from the rest of the drivers. We've got many of them out there. I have no grips invalidated his lap. It's a 105.1 for Kevin. And like I say, it is very difficult around the track limits here. I mean, even if you just go through all the order, you can see there are many invalidations. We've got Kay Garley, who goes into third with a 1 minute 7.3. I'd imagine he will improve on that lap. A little bit of a snap for him out of turn 1. But, Lewis, we're both league racers ourselves. We have both raced around this circuit before and obviously many other circuits. But Austria, it's always just such a fun one to race around, isn't it?
Yeah, it has got a lot of fun and challenging corners. I'd say the only part of the circuit that is quite difficult to drive is I'm on board with Mikey here. The section he's just coming up to now. If you're on controller, it's very difficult to drive this part of the track. If you're on wheel, it's a little bit easier, but it is one of these ones where you can battle and have fun around here. One of the probably the most entertaining races I've ever had as a driver was round here. Um, there's just so much, given how short it is, that you'll stick together all the time. DRS zones, there's everything you could want. Challenging corners, as I say, up the mountains, down the mountains. It's just fantastic.
Exactly that. Now, most drivers have set a lap. We've got 5 who haven't. One of those remains in the pits. That's our IRL Schumacher. We've got Jabe, who's currently on a lap. Mikey has gone purple in the first sector. Finjo went to the top of the timesheets with a 1 minute 4.6. So about 2 tenths clear of Josh. But it is quite chaotic, Austria qualifying. I think it's quite difficult for drivers to get out of the way. You don't want to give anyone else a tow, and it's very easy to do that, especially those final laps of qualifying. where every driver is out on the track. It is very easy to get held up, to, give someone a tow completely accidentally. It's going to be absolute chaos, but it will provide us with a great qualifying session. And I mean, you can see already the times are so close as Mikey now comes around the final corner in the Sauber, puts it P2 just ahead of Josh, about 2/10 off of Finjo. But I mean, you look, I have no grip, separated from DGH by 3 milliseconds. You've then only got to go 20 milliseconds to get to Dan Lovett, because this lap is so short. And I mean, NRRL is always close whatever way you look at it. But when you've got a track that is so short that can easily punish track limits and whatnot, it's such a close lap time. And with the league being this condensed as well, this is going to make for an incredibly close qualifying session.
Absolutely. It's a very frustrating track to qualify on, given that everyone is desperate to get on with their laps. And it is quite a difficult track to let drivers through, because even though there is only 10 corners, I believe, it is still a difficult one, given half of those corners are in a left-right really part in the middle sector. So it can be easy to clog up with some other drivers. But if you can get that lap synced up, there's not really many places and it's more satisfying to do it at.
Exactly that, and like I mentioned with the short lap, it's difficult to find places where you can really gain time on other drivers. You look to places like turn 1 where you can cut a bit of the inside curb. You look to places like the exit of turn 3. Because there's not many corners and they are all so, I guess, alike in a way, that it's not, you look at a track like Spa, there's a lot of corners where you can gain on another driver. Whereas Austria, because of the lack of corners and the lack of lap time, there isn't that opportunity to be able to gain 2-3 tenths over a lap because you've done better than them in 10 plus corners. It's very close as Josh now retakes provisional pole position, 3 tenths clear of Finjo. That's a great lap from the Ferrari driver. But like I mentioned, I mean, you look all the way up and down the field, it's so close between absolutely everyone.
Definitely, this is what we've come to expect. 3/10 or just under 3/10 is a good gap there. A little bit larger than what we normally get, but I would imagine that at the end of the session that would come down. Track evolution. Not many drivers out on a lap at the minute. Priest, Kevin, here he is coming towards the end of his first sector. 1.2 seconds down, so a very poor middle sector there. Not many others really on laps, as we say. I don't know how long is left in the session, as there is currently a yellow flag in sector 3 and now in sector 1. We've still got 9 minutes, so still quite a while to go. But this is where, as we say normally, the potentially boring part of the session, where drivers will only do really 2 or 3 runs, and you have to time them well, because if you don't, then you will miss out on your last lap, and that is the most opportune time to be on the track.
Exactly that, track evolution is a big thing, and especially around a track like Austria where the times are so close together, that little bit of track evolution can be the difference between pole position and starting on the second, third row of the grid, especially in a league like NRRL where it is so close between all of these drivers. It's important that you try and get the optimal lap time and you do your lap at an optimal time. So all 19 drivers have now set laps. We've got IRL Schumacher, who will definitely want to set another lap and is going for another lap now in the Red Bull. That's not an ideal lap time from the Red Bull driver. He's got a little bit of a toe there from the V-carb. Has to swerve out of the way, but I doubt that will really cost him any time as he comes through turn 1 now then. And like you mentioned, this is the sort of stalemate bit of qualifying now, where we've got a few drivers who are out, a few drivers that are in the pits. Everyone's sort of qualifying strategy now starts to play out. Schumacher 5.5 seconds up, so a much better first sector than he had previously. And he will be on for a genuine lap time. And Meldrum has now joined, so that will make 20 drivers for tonight's race. A full grid, absolutely wonderful to see. And I do wonder, with a full grid, you know, recently we've been getting sort of 15, 16 drivers. With 20 drivers around such a short circuit, this could really be a chaotic Grand Prix.
Very much so. 36 laps, as we say, creates that sense of urgency. But with how not only small but thin this track can be at certain places, it really is going to be frustrating if you're stuck in that mid pack because DRS train here will just become 10 times worse.
Exactly that. It is very difficult to break out of the DRS, especially if you're in a DRS train. It's very difficult to gain on other drivers. But I think one thing that is very important for Austria is managing your battery. We've seen a lot of drivers struggle in this league with managing their battery, and then that contributes to them having issues and whatnot, and making mistakes and not being able to get ahead of drivers. Well, especially if you're in a DRS train, that is an optimal position to try and gain back some battery and then have an attack at your adversary. We've got Red 44 Dog, who is currently on his lap. He's just going through the middle sector now on a big snap for the V-Carb driver, and he is round into the gravel. Just so happens I was on board with the V-Carb man, and we saw him go through that middle sector. It is a very difficult corner to try and get right, and, well, going round is the V-Carb. No damage done to his car, and he will be back into the pits for a change of tyres, and he will be all good to go. But not an ideal middle part of the session for the V-Carb man. We've got Mikey, who's currently on another lap, finds himself P4 at the minute. Dan Lovett moved himself up to P3 with a 104.6, so he's very, very close in that battle with Finjo. I Have No Grip now goes up to P2 with a great lap. That's only 20 milliseconds off of provisional pole. So this, you're talking really 5-6 drivers that are in the fight for pole position tonight. This is absolutely incredible to watch.
It's what we've come to expect time and time again in a load of different teams. You can never really call who will be number one. You can have a good idea of who will be up there as Jabe goes 3.5 tenths quicker, puts himself P3. That's a very good lap from him, as we still have a few drivers out, but not two of the heavy hitters. And now here is where the session just quietens down before we get to the end. Everyone just in the pits or coming out on their outlaps. Only one, Meldrum at the minute, yet to set a time. He's on his outlap, so we'll see where he can put himself. We know what he can do in qualifying. Can he get into that form once again?
We've currently got Hash, who's on a lap. I believe he may be the only man who is currently on a flying lap, and he will look to improve a 10th up in the first sector for the Aston Martin man. And he is now coming through the second sector, trying to improve on his lap time. I do believe he is the only man that is on a proper lap currently. So we will stick with the Aston Martin for now as he comes through the middle sector. But after seeing this first sort of, well, the first two halves of qualifying, we now go to the final part, Lewis. I'm going to give you the top 6 drivers. Who takes pole?
I'm going to say I Have No Grip. I think he's had a very, very good week so far. He looks to be up there once again. And I have a feeling he might be able to just knock a little bit of time off of his lap. He's 4 tenths down at the minute, so it isn't working too well. But I think if he can hook the lap up, then he can definitely take it.
Completely agreed. I think realistically anyone in the sort of top 7, if they took pole position, they would be deserving of it, because it is oh so close between all of these drivers. 3 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in this session. Meldrum is coming around the final corner to now set his lap. So all drivers will now have set laps. Meldrum goes into P15 with a 106.2. And here is your sort of stalemate then. Dan Lovett is on a lap, 36 milliseconds up. He will need to have a lightning final sector if he wants to vie for pole position, because I don't believe he'll have enough time to get back round and do another lap. Josh has just come out for his flying lap. Where does his teammate Dan Lovett go? He doesn't improve and stays P6. So Dan Lovett, I believe that is the first of the pole contenders who has taken their swing and is knocked out.
Not an ideal lap for him. He hasn't had the best of fortunes in the past couple of weeks. And you would hope for his sake he would be able to turn it around in the race, but it's going to be difficult.
Finjo is also on a lap. KLR Dizzy is on a lap. We've got Josh on his outlap. I have no grip, and Mikey still in the pit lane. Mr. Jabe on his outlap. 2 minutes to go in this session. We see Mikey now emerging from the pits. Here comes Finjo then, round the final couple of corners. How can he fare in the Mercedes? He's been on provisional pole once before. Goes P5 with a 104.4. And again, you would imagine, unless he's got the fuel to do 2 runs, that is his session over. KLR Dizzy, he's not on a lap. I believe he might be doing a double out lap. As we've got I Have No Grip still in the pits. Is he not going to do another lap? Because I don't think he'll have time.
I can't say I know how long is left. Oh, 1 minute. It would be very tight. He would have to be coming out right now and then get on with his... No, he's not going to have enough time. I don't quite understand why that would be, but that is quite surprising.
Indeed, and your pick for pole position, he's let you down, mate. I have no grip. What are you doing? You're letting the commentary team down. We backed you for pole. Josh is currently on his lap. He backed out of it. Mikey is going on to his lap now.
Jabe up, but not by too much in the first sector.
We've also got Mikey, who's just gone through the first sector now. Dizzy is again on his, I guess, reconnaissance lap. We've got Mr. Jabe, who's now making his way through the second sector. A couple of cars ahead of him. You would hope that they get out of the way. The Mercedes does dive out of the way for him. We've got an Alpine in the grass there. He is 2.5 tenths up, is Mr. Jabe. Little bit of mistake on the gears there, though, from the Aston Martin driver. As he now comes through the final corner in the Aston Martin, he might actually get a little bit of a tow from his teammate, but he has invalidated, yes. It would have been a 104.5... Oh, no, it's a 104.592, so he will not have improved. Mikey has also invalidated. Josh is on his lap now, as is Dizzy. But Josh, the man that's currently on provisional pole position, is looking to go even quicker and extend that gap. The 2 guys behind him won't have a chance to fight him, and he's invalidated, has Josh on his lap. So now we look to Dizzy, who's about 0.5 tenth up, and it's that close. He just needs to gain another 0.5 tenth in this final sector, and he could take pole position as the V-carb now comes towards the final 2 corners. Here we go then with KLR Dizzy through the final corner now. Can he battle for his first pole position? He comes to the line now, and it isn't an improvement. Mr. Jabe is invalidated. Wiz Jokies has also invalidated. That is your session. And Josh for Ferrari, after, to me, what feels like quite a long way away from the top, has returned to his former glory. Josh on pole.
Fantastic lap. We say it all the time. You can't even make half mistakes in NRRL. You will get punished with how close it is. You can't take a half measure. You have to go all the way. And he has done that and secured himself another pole position.
Incredible lap from the Ferrari driver. The Williams of I Have No Grip taking P2 from the pits. We've then got Mikey, who is in 3rd place. I believe the entire top 5 invalidated their final laps. We've then got Mr. Jabe in 6th, Dan Lovett in 7th, and look how close it is. You've got the top 13 within a second of each other. It's so close.
You can never call it. Top three as well, within a tenth, and fourth and fifth, 3 milliseconds apart. And another thing that is good to see, five teams in the top five, or
Exactly
six in the
that. You've
top
then got
six.
six in the top six. Yeah, then it's Dan Lovett that breaks that duct with Ferrari both being up there. You've then got Kevin, who is with I Have No Grip. Falco Warrior ninth for Alpine. But six teams in the top six. No team games going on at the start of this Austrian Grand Prix. It is going to be very, very close. We will now take you over to the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships, where Mikey Boy currently leads by 30 points. So he has already got a race wins gap, and this is only round 5. So very, very close. I believe this is an 8-race calendar. So it is going to be difficult for people to try and gain on Mikey. He's currently third. Our pole sitter, Josh, currently sat in third with 43 points. Dan Lovett, starting in 7th, is currently second in the championship. And as we look to the constructors, Sauber currently on the top of that with 113 points. Then it's Ferrari, then Mercedes. So very, very close in all of the championships as we sort of head to the back end of the season now. As we will show you the calendar. Round 5, we've got, we've got 11 rounds, on the Thursdays. So we're about halfway through the season now then. But that is a big buffer for Mikey Boy to have.
Absolutely. He'll be very, very pleased with that. He'll be looking to extend that over the coming weeks. But will he be able to?
I mean, what great circuits we've got here. You know, Austria tonight. Next week we go to Montreal in Canada. Then we go to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. Spa, another legendary racing circuit. Then Zandvoort, one of the newer circuits on the Formula One calendar, but the Orange Army will be out in their forces. Then Losail for the Qatar Grand Prix, always a great, fun, high-speed circuit. Ending the season in Vegas. And lots of drivers today will be gambling for their chance at a race victory. As we see the cars on the grid and we just await those red lights. Now I'm going to pass this over to you, Lewis. You're Josh, starting on pole position. You know it's not a very long run down to turn 1, but it is a good overtaking opportunity. You've got drivers behind you that are very quick. You know that it's a very short lap before DRS gets enabled immediately on lap 2. How are you trying to take lap 1 to ensure that you can hold this lead? We have got the lights that are going out now then. 5 red lights ahead of the drivers in the Styrian Mountains. It is lights out and away we go. And Josh does get a good getaway from pole position. Mikey also with a good start. Dizzy's looking down the inside and Mikey's going around the outside of I Have No Grip and up into P2. We've got Dizzy who is in that fight as well. In behind, it looks like everyone has got through cleanly. We've got a few spinners at the back there as now into turn 3 we go. Red Dog going up the inside and there's a crash there between Mr. Jabe, I believe that was, and we've got Kevin who was round. Down at the back we had Devsey and Garley. They were round at turn 1. Kevin's picked up damage from that incident. We've got drivers battling all throughout as we've there got the Alpine of Falco Warrior going round after more contact. But for Josh, the ideal getaway, he's already 8/10 clear.
But he won't be happy with who he sees in the mirrors. We say it practically every week. Get your bingo cards ready. If there's one driver you don't want in your mirrors, it is Mikey Boy. We've seen his ability in wheel-to-wheel battle. And if he can get back inside that DRS range, he will be looking to make easy work of him. He is in that DRS. ERS already nearly depleted. And we are about to have an incredible battle on our hands. A battle that hopefully can last for the next 34 laps.
Very interesting tyre allocation. It's about a 50-50 split between the hard tyres and the medium compound tyres. All the top 4 are on the mediums. You've then got Finn, who's on the hard compound tyres. But again, this is such a fast and furious circuit that the battery gets depleted so quickly. I Have No Grip currently sat on about 67%. He's the real gainer in the top 4 in terms of battery. But Josh, with a good getaway, used a lot of battery to try and move away from Mikey. But Mikey was having absolutely none of that. He's already back into the DRS. And the current championship leader hounding down on the man currently third, looking to gain on him. We know that Mikey has got a race buffer already, but he will not be satisfied with that. He will want another race victory. As we've got yellow flags. That's the Alpine of Falca Warrior, who's had a bit of a moment in the middle sector. Fastest lap actually goes to Mr. Jabe, as we'll look to the position gain. We've got Mikey and Dizzy, who are up 1. Our big gainers are Gold Expert and Blood, who are up 5 positions from the opening lap. The spinners down at the back, those of Kevin, Falca Warrior and Devsy, down 9 positions each. Mikey is really starting to begin to gain on Josh, and towards turn 4, is there a move down the inside for him? Looks like he's almost trying to bait Josh into a mistake, and Josh has gone a little bit wider than you would like. Nothing doing for Mikey though into the middle sector, but he is starting to put the pressure on the Ferrari driver. It's very close between them. This battle, like you say, Lewis, hopefully lasts all race long.
Yeah, he's getting very, very close. What he needs to do is just charge that battery up and then use it in the most opportune times. There's a penalty for 2 in the top 4. Josh and I have no grip. That could be very costly towards the end. Very easy to invalidate around here. We will have DRS again, so round 3. Here we go then. DRS, he's not using any ERS, still gaining a little bit. A little bit too far back for a move, but he'll be liking what he sees so far.
Finjo managed to get past I Have No Grip down the main straight. Easy move for the Mercedes driver, and on the hard compound tyres, he is now up to 4th, and that will be very interesting as here we go with the 2 leaders. Mikey down the inside, Josh round the outside. There is a little bit of contact between the 2 drivers, but Mikey has muscled his way ahead and is into the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix on lap 4. He has made his way through on the Ferrari driver and up into first place. We've got Dizzy, who's right on the back of this. Finn, who will be the real guinea pig, I guess, for these drivers, as he's on the hard compound tyres. Josh obviously has that 3-second penalty, but so easy to get penalties around this track. I'm sure that many other drivers will, as 5 laps in, we've already got 4 drivers who have penalties. We've got Dizzy, who's trying to have a look on Josh. Nothing doing for the V-Card man at the minute, and he's now under pressure from Finjo, who's looking to have a go. Dizzy's draining the battery to try and get past Josh here, and he is gaining on the Ferrari driver towards turn 3. The inside is the line he elects, and there is massive contact. Both of them are off the track. Mikey's had a moment in there as well. Finjo goes through and takes the lead. It's Mikey that's in second. I Have No Grip is third. Dizzy and Josh still battling away, but Dizzy manages to gain the position. The interesting thing though is, A, does he have to give that back? I believe he has done, so that settles that question, as now Dan Lovett is coming at the V-Carb driver. But my second question, what happened to Mikey? Because he wasn't involved in that battle. He was already a bit up the road, so he's had his own moment. What happened to the Sauber?
No, I saw what happened. There was a slight touch as I went to the wide camera, and you could see him sort of halfway across the track. I think he did get a little bit caught up and then just lost the position, but he will not be happy with that one whatsoever. He will be chewing about that.
Finjo will be absolutely delighted. On the hard compound tyres, he would have just been thinking, I've got to stick with the medium runners, let alone overtake them and get into the lead of this Grand Prix. So Mikey boy, who has already done all the work, has to do it again. Dizzy is fallen really far back off the way of Josh. He has got the DRS, but he's not close enough. And there's a big mistake there from I Have No Grip. And Josh is going to look to capitalise as we go now towards turn 5, the middle sector. Very hard to overtake in this middle sector as I Have No Grip. Very wide again, and Josh is going to go for it. Quite an unorthodox place to try and overtake, but he's pulled it off. Brilliant move from the Ferrari man. He's up into third.
Fantastic move from the pole sitter. He'll be looking to get himself back up into race contention. He does have DRS on Mikey. That can hopefully just pull him a little bit closer. And then once he is closer, he can then try and cruise up to the back of Finjo as well. But it won't be as easy as we're saying, as he isn't really gaining as much as he'd like.
Exactly that. Mikey is actually losing time to Finjo on the hard tyres. We see Josh there with a bit of a lock-up. But the hard tyres, obviously working well. He can go longer in this race. I think Finjo's got a real shot at victory here today in the Styrian Mountains, because on those hard compound tyres, like I mentioned a few laps ago, he will have just been thinking he needs to stick with the medium runners, let alone get ahead of them, and then be quicker. This is dreamland for the Works Mercedes driver. He is absolutely flying in the Styrian Mountains, especially in the middle sector. Look at the time that he's pulled out on Mikey just through that middle sector alone. It was about 6/10 he pulled, as Josh way over the curbs there and picks up another time penalty. Dizzy is right on the back of I Have No Grip. Dan Lovett is also involved in that fight and is looking towards the inside of turn 1. Is Dan Lovett going to go for it a little bit earlier on the brakes? But Dizzy has gone very, very wide. And is that leaving the track and gaining an advantage? It certainly looked like it. He's a lot further ahead than he was when he was on the track, per se. But nothing doing for now, as Dan Lovett is tagged in the rear, I believe, by Mr. Jabe. Mr. Jabe goes off. Dan Lovett goes round. Dan loses the position. He manages to regain it back. Mr. Jabe giving that position back, and that is very sportsmanlike from the Aston Martin driver. That is what we want to see. But Dan Lovett losing heaps of time, and now in 6th position, 2.4 seconds off the lead battle. Very, very close between those two drivers. A little bit too close for comfort. And that sees Dan Lovett go round.
Not the most ideal solution for him, but at least he's still pointing in the right direction. In a decent position as well. And you can just see on board some of these drivers' tyres are completely stripped away. I Have No Grip into the pits. And this is one thing about Styria, is the temperature just cooks the tyres to where it is very difficult as to when to make your stop. A bit like Silverstone with how hard it is on tyres. Austria, arguably a little bit harder. And it just makes things very, very tricky, because you really have to plan your stop on the perfect lap.
Exactly that. I mean, you can see in the sky there is not a cloud in sight, and the sun is beating down on these Formula 1 cars, and those Pirelli tyres will not be enjoying that. Kay Garley has retired from the session. He was in 20th on the soft compound tyres, and he is our first retiree of the day. Mikey keeping that gap around the same sort of time to Finjo, but not ideal for the Sauber man after that contact. Josh, currently in 3rd, is trying to gain on him. Dizzy is really starting to lose out in this battle and get into a bit of no man's land, as he's 1.7 seconds off now, as Josh now comes into the pits. Dizzy stays out, Dan Lovett stays out, Mr. Jabe stays out. So the interesting thing now will be Josh obviously pitting. Where will he emerge with I Have No Grip? Because I Have No Grip was behind him, I believe. But with the undercut, especially around such a short lap, can be very powerful, as we see Josh coming out of the pits now. I Have No Grip coming down the main straight. This is going to be very close between these two. Is it going to be close enough for the Williams driver? They get out near enough alongside. Josh gets out just behind Meldrum and manages to make the move and put a car between himself and I Have No Grip. But that was very, very close, and that shows just how powerful the undercut is.
Very much so. To make it even worse, Meldrum, a slight mistake there at turn 3. Costs I Have No Grip a little bit of time. And you can see Josh just slowly getting away. And through this section of the track, it is so much worse, the dirty air. And you can see him gaining, and there isn't a worse place to gain, because the car just starts to struggle, crying out for any downforce. And you can see how far away he's got now. Right on the back of his teammate, Prix Kevin.
Dan Lovett and Red Dog and Wiz Jokies now come into the pit lane. And that leaves Just a few drivers who are still on the mediums from the start of the race. But as we go on board with Mikey, look at the state of the tyres. It is not ideal at all. We're seeing reports in the chat of some contact between, I believe that was Hash and Wiz Jokies. Apparently there was a Haas forced into the grass a couple of times. My apologies that we didn't catch that. We will keep an eye on those two, and hopefully that battling gets a little bit cleaner. But now we just sort of get to the bit of a bit of the stalemate of the race here, where the gaps start to open up. And I mean, Mikey, judging by those lap times, should have pitted about 11 laps ago, because 3.4 seconds the gap now, and surely Mikey into the pits. He is, as Dizzy is going to stay out. DGH, you'd imagine, will stay out. Mr. Jabe also coming into the pit lane. So the only medium runner staying out thus far will be Dizzy, looking for somewhat of an overcut on his medium runners, or his medium runner compatriots. Mikey comes into the pit, stops on his marks. Hard compound tyres go on to the Sauber. You would imagine I don't imagine this will go to the end of the race. I would imagine that this will be a two-stop. But interestingly enough, Josh, I have no grip, have undercut Mikey by quite a way. Mikey 2.4 seconds behind I have no grip. And Josh is way, way up the road from that battle.
And I believe the Williams might have had contact with each other there, as I managed to catch the end of it. Both of them off the road, up at turn 3. Not quite sure what happened there, but not the optimum racing line, shall we say.
Yeah, most certainly not, and especially not with two teammates trying to battle each other. That is not ideal at all, and you'd imagine Kevin will try and do a job for his teammate, I have no grip, and try and maybe hold up Mikey a bit. Obviously, no blue flags as they are racing for position, so Kevin would be able to try and hold him up, but Kevin dives now into the pit lane, as does DGH. Finjo stays out and is really starting to control this race. Dizzy has also stayed out. That's an interesting choice. Josh is now up to 4th, as we'll take a quick look at the penalties. Josh on 12 seconds of penalties already. So he's really struggling in the Ferrari to try and keep it within the track limits. So he may have the track position, but those penalties will demote him way, way down the order.
Yeah, it can be very difficult with strategy at any track, but especially round here, as we say. Very much like playing a chess match at 200 miles per hour. You're not really thinking straight at any point. But when do you decide to pit? Finn will obviously be out for just a little bit longer on those hard tyres. But you can already see a slight bit of graining. When does he decide to go in? Dizzy, his are not looking in the best of shape either. We have a yellow flag in Sector 2, and Alpine is off the track. I believe he was just letting cars through.
We've got I have no grip looking to come past Hash here. Obviously, Hash hasn't pitted since lap 1. I have no grip has. And look how Mikey boy has gained on the Williams. So that 3-lap difference in those tyres paying absolute dividends, as through goes the Williams, through goes the Sauber, and now the Sauber goes through on the Williams. Lovely opportunist move if Mikey can pull this one off. They are still wheel to wheel come the exit of turn 3. The Williams won't have the DRS, the Sauber will, and Mikey moves himself up into 5th place. Now the question is, can he begin to gain on Josh? 4.4 seconds the gap, and he will look to bring that down as quickly as possible and try and gain on the Ferrari man.
I was very surprised he went for that, but that was a genius move. Typically, you see a bit of contact. Typically, 3 into 2 at a corner like that won't go, but he saw that and said, no, it does. Fantastic move.
Exactly that. We now see the leader, Finjo, come into the pits, being overcut by a medium runner, which is quite interesting. Josh now gets ahead of IRL Schumacher. Very easy move for the Ferrari driver, as the Red Bull has not pitted yet. But this is quite the interesting strategy from Dizzy, I must admit. He must be maybe trying to make this race a one-stop, because 14 laps on the medium tyres, he's going longer than most of the drivers on hard compound tyres. We've got Finn, who emerges in P10 just behind Dan Lovett, who is in a fight with DGH and Mr. Jabe, and Finjo will want to get on with this as quickly as possible. He's happy to sit behind the Ferrari for now, though. Mikey is really pulling that gap down to IRL Schumacher, as you would expect, with Schumacher being on those tyres since the very beginning. Surely we see Dizzy into the pits now. And for his sake, yes, thank God he is. Because look at the state of those medium tyres. Josh will go through to take the lead of the Grand Prix. Schumacher stays out and will take second. Mikey Boy into third. I have no grip. Still hanging to the back of the Sauber very, very nicely. Well within the DRS range. And will be able to just get pulled along a little bit with Mikey towards the front of the pack once more. Hash also hasn't pitted. One of two drivers who hasn't pitted from their tyres that they started on. Hash currently in P5 with his teammate behind him for company. DGH is looking to go at his teammate Mr. Jabers. Hash well wide off the track there. Bit of a risky move there from DGH. Nothing doing, but he is now coming back at the Aston towards turn 4. Is there a gap down the inside? There isn't, and he will have to stick behind the Aston for a little bit longer. And Mikey is now beginning to gain on Schumacher. The dirty air is so pungent through this middle sector, and he is looking to get on with it as we go to lap 17. Mikey comes around the final couple of corners now. Then he will get the benefit of DRS from the Red Bull. He's got his lapped teammate ahead of that, and Mikey is happy to just sit in the DRS for the time being. And that probably is a smart decision, as he'll get DRS all the way up this hill. And this is where he's going to go for the move. Easy move for the Sauber driver. What is the gap to the leader? That is the question. He's brought it down by about a second. So now the question is, does Mikey have the pace to try and gain on Josh? Finn is up to 7th and is right in the Aston Martin inter-team battle, as there's a little bit of contact there between himself and Hash. Manages to get through on the Aston Martin, but the Aston Martin is really coming back at him, and this is harming the net race leader here, because Hash has managed to get his way through and is really holding up the Mercedes.
And this is not good, especially the worst part of the track to get overtaken on as well. Not just lose. Oh, but he's managed to get back past. Wow. I am stunned he went for it there. He's actually lost 2 positions there. Dan gets spun round. Can he keep it in the right direction? He can't, and he's out. That surely will be a safety car.
That almost looked a bit intentional to me. I don't know what you think, Lewis, but I have most certainly seen Formula 1 cars decelerate quicker than that in my time commentating. So we will have to review that incident and see what happened. But a virtual safety car has been deployed, and that will nullify the race. Drivers have to drive to 40% of their racing speed. And Finjo, a great move from him to get past Hash. Now he's got to do the same again on Mr. Jabe, and then he will get to his sort of collective battle with I Have No Grip and Mikey.
I mean, I can't say I was on board with Dan, and I was on board when he was halfway across the track, and I thought he might be able to keep it out of the barriers, but maybe he didn't think he could and then just gave up midway through. But I'm not too sure. But that was that could have been very bad for Finn, but to manage to overtake in that tricky section of the circuit will do him very well in the Works Mercedes.
Exactly that. A great opportunist move, and just before the VSC as well. That will be ideal for him as he now looks to chase down Mr. Jabe. As we do go to green flag racing once again, Schumacher comes into the pits, and that's not an ideal time to pit as the safety car or virtual safety car comes in. Finn is now looking to come at the Aston Martin to the outside of turn 1 he goes. Is there enough of a gap? He's ran a little bit wide. Good racing from the pair of them though. Stark defence from Mr. Jabe. He did absolutely everything he could, but Finjo is up to 4th. And I tell you what, Josh has got a great virtual safety car restart in him, because he's pulled out about a second just from that restart. So whether it was Mikey having a poor restart or Josh having an absolutely incredible one, that gap has now risen again. I Have No Grip has fallen right off the back of Mikey as well. 3.4 seconds, the gap between them. Finn's got 4 seconds if he wants to gain up to the Williams driver. And it all sort of settles down now as the gaps start to produce themselves. Closest battle we have on track is Kevin and Schumacher, but you'd imagine Schumacher will gain away with the fortune of fresher rubber. Dizzy is just creeping up to the back of DGH, and we saw Dizzy very, very late pit stop on the mediums. He is now back on the mediums, so evidently two-stopping, maybe going on to the softs for the final run, because I don't imagine you'd go on to the hards when you can take mediums 15 laps. Why would you take hards 16? You might as well take another set of mediums, but obviously with the regulations you have to pit onto 2 separate tyre allocations. Doesn't matter what those allocations are, and those rules all go out the window if the heavens open, but no heavens opening here today, and Dizzy making his own opportunities up into 6th past the Red Bull.
Very, very good move for him. He'll be delighted with that, and he can now try and set after Mr. Jabe. Interesting point, all of the top 5 currently with penalties, some more than others. And that is going to be something that will be in the mind of Josh, as he right now is not going to keep the victory if the gap stayed like that.
No, I mean, that is the big caveat, is the penalties. We've mentioned so many times that the track limits are so difficult to stay within, and 12 seconds of penalties for Josh. He wouldn't even stand on the podium, and he's leading by 4.2 seconds. But 12 seconds of penalties, that is a hell of a lot, and that is only going to compound his issues in this race. And what would really cost him as well, and, well, really every driver that's got a penalty, is if there was a safety car to come out, that's only going to bring that closer.
Well, for Josh, it might not be... Oh, no, because Josh's penalty isn't a speeding penalty, yeah. I was going to say Josh's penalty might be actually a blessing in disguise if there was a safety car, as he could go and serve it. But no, that you can't serve that. And you can already see his tyres there, Josh. The hard tyres graining. It is a very, very punishing track for the tyres. But how are his tyres feeling? He clearly thinks they are in good nick, as he is still just ever so slightly increasing, but then decreasing that lead. Largely the same pace between the top 2. But nothing really happening in the top 3 at the minute.
I think quite interestingly, Finjo isn't really gaining all too much on I Have No Grip. And this is pure pace. Finn doesn't have DRS, neither does the Williams, and on 7-lap-old mediums compared to 13-lap-old hards, the gap isn't really tumbling between the two of them. I fully expected Finn to just rock up to the back of the Williams and within a lap or two be past him. But 2.4 seconds the gap. It's not coming down at the rate I thought it would. And that's not ideal, because he was in the lead, comfortably controlling this race, and the baton has suddenly swung in the favour of Mikey once more. Very interesting to call.
Absolutely. In 13 laps remaining, he would need to gain 4.5 seconds to keep this win, would Josh. Finjo gets up into 3rd as I Have No Grip comes into the pits. You would expect medium tyres going on that Williams. It is. And he is released.
Isn't
Oh, is it not?
Compound tyres.
Ah.
Very interesting. I was completely with you, to be honest. I expected the medium tyres to be on that car, but evidently the Williams pit wall has something different in mind. And this will be interesting to see now, because we know the undercut is powerful. Does Finn come into the pits? Does he stay out and try and take these tyres to the end? It'd be one hell of a task if he were able to do that. You'd imagine that this is most certainly a 2-stop race, So you'll see the likes of Josh, of Mikey into the pits once more. This is quite an interesting race to call because as much as the gaps are quite large, you know, we've got Dizzy who is now beginning to gain on Mr. Jabe for 4th place, 7-lap-old mediums compared to 11-lap-old hards for the Aston Martin. But as much as the gaps aren't very close at the minute, the strategy, which is really going to call this race, has been blown wide open. You just cannot tell what's going to happen.
No, and it's exactly how we would like it. And this is actually something to take a look at. I haven't really been looking at the leaders here, but that gap come down by a second. Both drivers' tyres don't look in especially great shape. Can they eke it out to the end, or will they have to pit again? Very, very difficult to call, isn't it? You just don't know what to do with strategy.
Dizzy managed to get his way through on Mr. Jabe and up into 4th place. Now, the one that I'm really watching is I Have No Grip, who is looking to gain on Red Dog. His teammate pitted, got out of his way. 2.7 seconds, the gap between them, and maybe, I would hope for Red Dog's sake, he made a little bit of a mistake there, because I Have No Grip has just gained about 9/10 in 2 corners, as Mikey and Josh both come into the pit lane.
So here we go then.
And interesting, very interesting. Sorry to interrupt you, Lewis. Josh onto mediums, Mikey onto hards.
So I think Mikey is banking that those mediums will burn themselves out after a few laps. Wouldn't shock me if they did, given how punishing it can be. And Mikey will be hoping that Josh will be getting held up by Schumacher here. Certainly possible. Schumacher does have pace in him, but how long will he be able to affect Josh's race? That is the question. But Josh looks to be in incredible form tonight.
Exactly that. And I mean, Schumacher only on 6-lap-old mediums, but they will be starting to feel the wear. And Schumacher, you would imagine, will do his best to try and hold up the net race leader, as Finn now also comes into the pit lane. That was very, very close to the speed limit, I must say, but doing well to slow the car down as quickly as possible. 3.4 seconds, the gap between them, and nothing really that Schumacher could do there. Josh makes what is an easy move back up into 3rd. Mr. Jabe is really coming at Dizzy here, and this is for the race lead, and Mr. Jabe does get through back on Dizzy and into the lead of this Grand Prix. Good opportunist move there from the Aston Martin. He's up into 1st. Dizzy not really trying to come back at him for now, just regaining the battery. Josh has got about 3 seconds to gain till he reaches that battle. Mikey just got past his lapped teammate. He's still in 5th. He's got about a second gap to I Have No Grip. Finn is then 6 seconds off of that battle. But this has been completely blown open. Who's going to take it? You just cannot call it.
No, very, very difficult. I think Dizzy might be pitting here. He is, and so is Jabe.
Well, that is ideal for Josh then, who won't have to do any battling. Will just inherit the lead once more. Sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:06.3 for the Ferrari driver. Mikey comes across the line as well, isn't able to replace that, nor is I Have No Grip. Obviously, we know the difference in tyres, and Mikey maybe just starting to bring that gap down a little bit towards Schumacher, but towards the leader, gap staying about the same. Now, we know that Josh has many, many penalties, 12 seconds penalties, 9 seconds if you factor in Mikey's 3-second penalty. But with the laps remaining, the question now has to be asked, can Josh do enough to try and pull away from that gap?
He definitely has the pace to do it, but does he have the time? With the lap counter going down each lap, it grows increasingly unlikely, but I'm sure that is his main focus. He will want to keep this when he has dominated this race, and it would be very unlucky if he was to lose it because of a penalty, which, to be fair, is entirely self-inflicted. But is it going to cost him?
Exactly that. It's about a sort of 4.5 second gap that Josh has got at the minute. He needs to make that gap 9 seconds if he wants to try and win this race. Mikey manages to clear Schumacher, who's been on those tyres a lot longer than Mikey has. But Josh just needs to try and put his foot down. He really needs 8 qualifying laps here, does the Ferrari, to try and get that gap as high as possible, but not much battery for the Ferrari driver. He will struggle to try and pull away in such a short lap, like we've mentioned. Not ideal for Josh, and it might just be too little, too late. Schumacher is in third. 9 laps on those tyres. It will be a struggle for him to take them to the end, as I Have No Grip is now gaining on him, and Finjo will be gaining as well. And interestingly, that gap in the past few laps has been tumbling between Finn and the Williams driver, but not at a considerable amount, as Schumacher now comes into the pits. I Have No Grip inherits the podium position. Finn about 3 seconds off that. You've then got Mr. Jabe, who will be behind this. Dizzy has actually gone onto the soft compound tyres, which is what I assumed he was doing when he did the very long first stint. But it doesn't seem like it's doing all that much for him. Currently running in 6th and not really gaining on Mr. Jabe, who pitted on the same lap as him onto the medium tyres. So the softs, evidently not the choice that he should have made here in the Styrian Mountains, as Meldrum has actually been disqualified for too many penalties. I don't think we have ever seen that in NRRL, and we will look. 27 seconds of penalties Meldrum had, and he is out of the session.
That's odd, as he's had more before.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to, the first race that we did together, Lewis. I think he must have been on about 40 seconds of penalties, no?
I think 45 is the number going around in my head at the minute. I always thought if you got 33, it would be the cut-off point, but that is quite interesting how that has happened.
Yeah, most certainly. But Meldrum, obviously not an ideal day for McLaren. 1 disqualified, 1 in 16th position. Ferrari working well, but again, the gap just isn't eking itself out like Josh would want to. 3.3 seconds the gap. And our current championship leader, Mikey, is on course for yet another race victory. And this race has been tough for every single driver. The strategy, so difficult to try and perfect. The setup, very difficult to dial in correctly. But Mikey has done everything absolutely perfectly. But commiserations to Josh, who completely would deserve this victory, but 15 seconds in time penalties will tear that away from him.
Yeah, and with corner cutting penalties, you can't really blame anyone but yourself. As we say, it's a self-inflicted wound that nobody has really pressured you into. But that's the thing, just small mistakes, easy to invalidate here. But you could also say that 15 seconds, the very, very top drivers, they would figure out the lines to take. So I can see both sides, but it is cruel that when you have been so good all weekend, that you have it stripped away from you.
Exactly that, and he will know how well he is driven to lead this race and control it. But with near 5 laps to go now, Josh will have that desperation starting to creep in, as actually the gap is now coming down between the two of them. And is there to be late drama in this Grand Prix? Could Mikey try and fight him on track? I Have No Grip is falling off the back of this, and Finn is actually falling off the back of I Have No Grip. And as we look towards the penalties once again, 3.3 seconds the gap between the Mercedes and the Williams. It's hard to call, but I believe if the flag were to fall now, Mikey would win. It would then be I Have No Grip second and Finjo third. I don't know if you can back that up for me, Lewis. I'm not the maths connoisseur here.
If you keep commentating, I'll try and figure it out, and then
Wonderful.
I'll get back to you.
Thank you very much. So we can see Mikey, 2.2 seconds the gap now. So it's coming down at about half a second a lap between the two leaders. 7-lap-old tyres. They pitted on exactly the same lap. But Josh on the mediums, Mikey on the hard compound tyres. We've got about 4 laps to go of this Grand Prix. And the gap is starting to swing down. And like I say, is there to be late drama in this Austrian Grand Prix? The Styrian Mountains playing host to many, many great races. Lewis, the calculator, you're back.
I believe he would finish in 4th. At the current... Given Jabe's penalty, I believe he is on for 4th place.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lewis. Well, we see I Have No Grip. A lot of wheel spin there out of turn 3, and Finjo is definitely going to gain some time because of that. But unfortunately for Finn, it has not gone his way after leading for so long. And was it just maybe a bit of a strategy blunder to try and stay out for so long, and the undercut hasn't worked? Maybe the traffic and the DRS trains haven't helped him. There was so much hope for Finn when he took the lead of this race on the hard compound tyres. I was sure he had it in his pocket, but people like Josh and Mikey and I Have No Grip have coped under the pressure and have performed absolutely brilliant in the heat of Styria and are now mere laps away from the podium.
And everyone that gets a podium will have done everything right. As now, given that penalty for Finn, I believe that puts Josh into the top 3. So he might just hang on for a podium.
Very interesting. And I mean, it would be a very well-deserved podium. But look at the gap now between Mikey and Josh. And that may change yet, because Mikey wants to win this one on track. And he is gaining the time. Can he gain the position? He's got about 2.5 laps to try and get through on the Ferrari. We know these guys are drivers, and I say it all the time when we get in this position. Yes, he could easily just sit back and win it on the penalties, but these guys are racers. They're drivers. They want to cross the line first, see the checkered flag first, and with DRS, for the first time in what will feel like eternities, the battle for the lead is back on as we enter the penultimate lap of the race.
Can he get him on track? That would do a lot of confidence if he can. He is close. It will be a double-edged sword for Josh. Is it the best idea to fight it and try and keep your position? But if you do, you could lose valuable time. It's very tight between him and Finn for 3rd at the minute. He is just hanging on by about a second. But if there is any contact, that could drop quite drastically. And he might actually get some help here with the Alpine that they are coming up to lap. I'm on board with him here. I'll see if he can pick up DRS. He might just. As here they go then, on to the final lap of this race. And he doesn't have it, no. So here we go then. His final, one of his last 2 best opportunities to pass. DRS up towards turn 3 then. Here we go. He is close. He's getting closer. He is gaining. He goes to the inside. He gets the move done. Although Josh comes back at him. And he gets the position and DRS to just pull him a little bit further away. And I think that is your race-winning overtake.
Incredible stuff from the Sauber. He could have sat behind and he could have just taken it due to the penalties, but Mikey is a true racer. He is our current championship leader, and he is going to extend that championship lead absolutely massively. He has driven a faultless race and is a deserving race winner as he now comes round the final couple of corners. He won last week in Imola. It is back-to-back wins for Mikey. He wins the Austrian Grand Prix. Josh will finish second on track, but I have no grip. We'll take that from him. Finn now comes across the line, and it is Josh that takes the final step on the podium. Finn comes home to finish fourth after leading for so long in the first stint. Mr. Jabe will finish in fifth. Schumacher comes home to sixth with a great drive from, I believe, what was the back of the grid. Up 11 positions was Schumacher, so a great faultless drive from him. Dizzy finishes in seventh with Kevin in eighth. Red Dog ninth. DGH 10th. Hash will finish 11th. Jokey's in 12th. Falca Warrior 13th. Gold Expert 14th with Wufafa 15th. Blood 16th. Sergeant Devsey 17th with Dan Lovett, Kay Garley and Meldrum failing to reach the flag. But what an incredible race it was here in the Styrian Mountains. And instead of the Orange Army willing on their driver, it is Swiss Sauber taking the glory.
Sensational drive from Mikey. He was always up towards the top, and that is what you have to do in order to be in contention, and he has done just that. We talk about rich veins of form. I'm pretty sure if you search up the definition of that in the Wikipedia, you might get a photo of Mikey, because he is in stunning form at this current moment in time.
Absolutely brilliant. And it's not just this tier, it's every tier that this man races in. He is absolutely brilliant. He has shown an incredible turn of speed and deserves all the plaudits as our championship leader wins once more. And the bubbly can finally get sprayed after a long and heat-thrilled race here in the Styrian Mountains. But Lewis, I will come to you quickly. Who is your driver of the day?
Gonna have to give it to IRL Schumacher. He ran a quiet race, started P17, and to finish fifth in a Red Bull is quite an incredible achievement around here. Difficult circuit to pass on, other than those two at turn 3 and 4. So to go from 17th to 5th is an unbelievable drive.
Absolutely incredible. Up and down the field, what a Grand Prix we have just witnessed. Mikey wins in the Styrian Mountains. I have no grip, and Josh, take your podium places. And Mikey further cements his championship lead as we enter the second half of the season. Well, thank you to everyone for watching live on Twitch. If you haven't already, drop a follow down below. This is the only place that you can watch NRRL live. We will be back tomorrow for Friday's 100% tier. My name has been JP. Alongside me has been Lewis. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for the Friday tier. Take care.